I've been seeing a lot in the news lately about Amouranth, streamers, and sex work. Got me thinking, is streaming sex work? And what does sex work even look like in a digital age? So I wanted to sit down with a former worker and find out myself.
So I am Jess Levinson, author of Capital Monument, former, now retired American sex worker, and mother of 6 kids, housewife, dog mom.
It's okay. You can look over. I'm behind, so it's fine to look over here.
Okay.
Just be comfortable.
Yes.
So, I mean, the thesis of the video really is simply this. Can you describe kind of in a nutshell what sex work is?
It's when you're receiving your livelihood by providing others with sexual gratification.
I mean, so porn, if you're a porn actress, that's sex work.
Absolutely.
If you're got your cleavage out on a streaming site, could that be considered sex work?
I would think if your platform is one that allows your viewers to receive sexual gratification in return for monetary contributions, then yes, I would think so.
So one of the things I really like that's been boiling in my head, is that in traditional sex work, with prostitution, with strip clubs, with escort services, there's a more opened understanding of the work that's being done, right? Like that you're engaging into a knowing exchange of money for services. But
usually,
with streaming or OnlyFans, do you feel like that's made as explicit?
I think it's the same kind of understanding is provided that your financial contributions to this person may or may not earn you their affection. And so I think it's the gamble of it that makes it so alluring and so potentially addictive.
So on the question of like involvement with minors, in escort and sex work, how often are young men involved as customers? When I say young, I mean like under the age of 18.
Yeah. So at what point do we get to market to children?
Right.
See, then it becomes a very slippery slope. And if you're working within a legal establishment, your hope is that their concern is enough for their own well-being and for the well-being of their patrons and employees that they're going to be assuring that people under the age of 18 are not able to access these communities where sexual services are being sold.
But if 1 out of 4 of your viewers or users were objective children.
Yeah. Yes. Then what you have is something different.
Well, what do you have at that?
A predatory situation that allows you to glean not just money but control. They don't have the capacity for being able to put into context what does true affection even look like. You lack that life experience a lot of the time. If it becomes accessible to you and you are a child and it's only accessible to you because of what you can financially contribute, and what you're receiving on the other end of that is simply sexual gratification, what does that set you up for a lifetime? For the rest of your lifetime? And is this predatory? Is this based on power and control more than it is sex at this point? Because the person receiving the monetary contributions is absolutely knowing and absolutely an adult. So it changes the paradigm.
So, you know, in a standard sex work for like a dancer, I'm trying to avoid colloquial terms like stripper.
Colloquial terms. Well, I appreciate you not wanting to call us whores. And yeah, I say us. There's a large marginalized society of different varieties of sex workers in America. So I can appreciate you not wanting to pigeonhole us or run afoul by using inappropriate adjectives to describe us or slurs, if you will. So thanks for that. Yeah. But
in a particularly famous headline that's made the rounds lately, a streamer had a Tesla car gifted to them by one of their viewers.
Okay.
In a dancer or an escort service, does that type of behavior, is it commonplace or does it happen?
Commonplace, very large gifts like those, cars, houses, things like that, they happen. It happens, but how all regular customers, you expect them, at least from my perspective and from the work that I did and the way that I was trained, and my experiences in the field, is that your regular customers, you expect them all to have a shelf life. They will eventually get tired of gifting large ticket items, money, lavish gifts, trips, things like that. So these things do happen, but like they're not going to happen forever out of the same person, theoretically. Like this person will eventually run out of resources or get tired of dumping resources into a relationship that doesn't offer emotional gratification, closeness, a lifetime commitment, or often even an actual sexual encounter. So
this is going to sound weird because I do respect the exchange of money for services even in a sexual capacity.
Sure.
Like I can see that as a value to everyone being involved.
Free market's kind of a necessary thing, yes.
Do you think that there's sort of a rug pull of the streaming market wherein they sell this gamble of interaction or this assumption of return, whereas in a more explicit, like an escort service, that's on the exchange itself?
No. It's such a weird, slippery slope. Once you start engaging with people who are paid to pretend that they're in love with you, they're going to pretend they're in love with you because they're getting paid to pretend they're in love with you. So this expectation that people have when they enter into a relationship and their contribution is specifically financial and their point of gratification from this exchange is strictly sexual, is that you will ultimately never be able, it's not going to thrive. It's not going to be a thriving relationship. You can't count on a partnership like that to be a lifelong, joyous, happy, harmonious, contributing to society type union. It isn't the case, in my opinion and in my experiences.
Is there any merit in pursuing sex work as a career?
Merit.
Like being a butcher or
okay. I will absolutely say that the most creative people in life have been sex workers. The most creative people that I've known. Some of the most loyal, definitely some of the most damaged, but ultimately the most creative people on the planet, the most resourceful, the most driven to survive, the most determined. They're a very determined group. So that having been said, sex work for me was something that didn't build me up, it tore me down over the long run, because my ultimate worth was only this little sliver of myself, which is my sexuality. So my ultimate worth was based only on that, and that's something that's going to fade. I don't know if people know, but we get old. Like that, you're, so like, you get to a certain age and that like ship has then sailed and sunk. And then is it something that you would want your children to be involved in? Is it something that would make you proud to see them do? Is it something they would be proud to see you doing? Is it something that, again, builds you up? Is it life affirming? For me, the answer always was no. because once I had based my livelihood, but also my identity into my ability to successfully sell sex, it reduced me to that small portion of my biology as my whole usefulness. And so it degraded my ability to feel like a whole person in the world and to have skills, gifts, talents, and abilities that occurred beyond that realm. So I don't believe that it's fruitful on a long term, but I understand that all our economic opportunities for women are sometimes just lacking. And that's like the nicest way I can put that. So I understand why people fall into it at times.
So, and economic opportunities is a great point to bring up, because indubitably there are women like Amouranth and Pokimane who are doing very well for themselves.
Sure.
And this clearly is going to be an inspirational point for lots of people to want to pursue that.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
if I can get a free Tesla
why
just
not?
by pretending I'm in love with someone.
Or even, I get a free Tesla because he thinks that'll make him stand out from chat, which is 10,000 people spamming me.
Right. So he wants me to be in love with him.
What's it like for workers who aren't at the top? What's it like for somebody who's doing this but not being?
Oh, what is it? What is it like to sell sex when you're not a celebrity?
Yes.
Selling sex? Oh, okay. Well, I would imagine. So I wasn't a celebrity sex worker. I actually entered into the sex trade when I was 12. So it started for me there, and then by the time I was 18, I didn't understand that there was worth or value of myself beyond that point anyway. So it took me like a really long time to kind of come around to there's a world beyond this, and I could do more and do better. So, this is such a tricky, sticky place.
Well, on the one hand, Amouranth, for example, has an OnlyFans that makes screaming piles of money.
Sure.
But for every her, there's how many that are...
There's people that go to work like I did after I could legally work in the sex trade and earn your, $300 in a shift if you're, doing well. And depending on what your situation in life is, if you're working 3-4 nights a week, you're able to survive. Are you thriving though? And does it end up being worth what you're having to put into it and what it's doing to your mind and to your body to get back? I mean, but again, once you decide that that's your worth and value, honestly, like you're probably not going to move too far beyond trying to sell sex, because that's your worth and your value. So there are so many women that are, again, so creative and so determined, and they've had to do that because this is not an easy job to do. But it often affords women who have things like a criminal history the opportunity to work for cash under the table. If they can't work because they have this thing attached to their name when they go and try to get what we would call in the industry like a legit job. And then there's usually an accompanying, if they're anything like me, because there are women that are really able to thrive and enjoy this environment, and I have met a few. I was not one of them. So I developed a substance abuse issue so that I could survive in this environment, so that I could do this work without having it be this thing that was destroying me outward enough to get in the way of my ability to pay my own bills. So that ends up being something else that you have to support. So it's not thriving, it's surviving.
In today's discourse, there's a lot of talk about female empowerment, about taking back your sexuality, even profiting off it on purpose. And is there an aspect to this where women who are doing very well in these fields are in control?
Are they liberated?
Do they know what they're doing, and is it like a predatory aspect where they are in fact the predator?
If their readership, if you will, if their subscribers are under the age of 18, if their subscribers are, and I won't say that I didn't have customers that weren't, but let's say they're subscribers like some of mine would have been subscribers back in the day, these live flesh and blood people rather than the electronically connected people, mentally special. I don't know. I'm not. Again, I don't want to. I don't want to get involved in pigeonholing people or degrading them as humans. But
they're not all the way.
Let's just say they're developmentally a little different. Let's say from your Ivy League college grad.
They're cognitively divergent.
Cognitively divergent people. Let's go there. I like that term. Let's just say, but it becomes a little easier to manipulate those types of people. So if that's your subscribership, then you, of course, are then in a predatory position. But I wouldn't, if someone's in love with you, you can prey on them, and they can be a fully sound individual also.
The workflow day for a aspiring streamer is 10, sometimes 12 hours a day, every day. For a cash for body sex worker,
okay,
do you have a similar workflow?
It fully depends on what your demographic is. I have worked in my line as somebody who is involved with survivors of human trafficking and in need of safe housing. I've worked with women who were seeing 8 to 10 Johns in a day. And that was, a 5-day-a-week work week for them. And then I've seen women was a woman who had one customer that I saw once a week and made $75,000 a year off of. So it's such a wide and diverse thing. If you're able to make what you need to make in a 3 or 4 night a week work week, then I've seen girls absolutely do that and be able to afford their rent and to go to college. And I've also seen girls that had such miserable, crippling addictions that they absolutely had to work 7 days a week so they could afford their 7-day-a-week habit so that they could work 7 days a week. And on it goes.
A lot of the up-and-coming class of young women in the streaming world or in the OnlyFans world, they're obviously very young, 19, they're early to mid-20s, many of them. What do you expect the shelf life to be for an aspiring young sex worker?
I've seen women be able to continue on as independent contractors and successful, available online hourly rate prostitutes well into their 60s. I've seen it happen. Where do the subscribers start to draw the line becomes the question. When is the object of your desire no longer desirable due to age or change or, if you decide that you're having children, if that's something that becomes part of your life and your body changes as a result of that. So that will, it's all going to be determined, it's all driven by your market. So what your market finds desirable tells you where you're going to go. And on a long enough timeline, how sexy are you? So it just depends. I've seen it done successfully, again, where women have worked into their 50s and 60s in the sex industry in America. Does that guarantee you a future beyond that financially? No. Is there any kind of social security at that point? I'm not certain. I haven't seen it yet. I used to think that if I never got out of the industry, what I would do is become old and haggard and unsexy. And then I would go cling to the pole and refuse to leave until they offered to pay me to go home because I was not hot anymore. And then that's how I would live out my days, is just having them pay me to not run their club afoul by my gross aged body, flapping in the indoor air conditioning breeze. So, I don't know.
To get off the topic so much of women in sex work, but
okay.
It is, I feel, tangential. There's a lot of men who are equally successful in online streaming for video games or commentary or money or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that what they're doing is similar in that it's a type of sex work, or are they selling something different that isn't their body?
I don't honestly know the answer to that question because I'm not a consumer of this content. So okay. I can only answer based on my assumption and based on my understanding of what constitutes sex work. So is their viewership are we contributing to something because we're receiving sexual gratification from it? I don't know. Is that happening for these guys? Maybe. Is this a gay community thing? I'll have to ask my son. He knows all about the gay community things. And all the gay fashion things and the gay hair things. He's great for that. But
is there an element of these women who are streaming a lot, who are engaging with communities, whose community base is young people, but it isn't a predatory sex exchange? It's just a parasocial arrangement.
All right, I don't know the answer to that because, again, I'm really not a consumer of these services. For me, between starting the safe house that my friends and I have championed and running the animal rescue and contributing to the local library because libraries are safe spaces and the one in my community desperately needs my support right now. And then what else do? I run the bakery now, and then I have
you don't have a lot of time.
The fashion line. Yeah, I'm not like able to consume this stuff, but let's just say maybe there's like a super benign community of like one girl who's just on there to tell men that they too can someday have like a wife and children, but like it can't be with her because we can't date everybody, fellas. Like it's not possible. Sorry. But, like maybe it's just that. She's just like on there trying to be encouraging and lift people's spirits. I don't know. I haven't stumbled upon that in life. I hope that exists. Maybe, and hopefully somebody's contributing to that without having to give themselves an orgasm on the other side. I really don't. I wouldn't know.
Would you say that the line gets crossed from maybe a benign entertainment role into explicit sex work when there is an OnlyFans account that is selling nudes?
Yes, that's explicit. Yes, that's pornography. So now it's no longer suggestive. It's no longer implied. It's now available. It's like, so we've gone from this arrangement where people are contributing to this person because they think maybe they have an emotional connection with them. And then I don't think there's a lot of, do you go to OnlyFans to connect with people emotionally?
No, you go to OnlyFans to buy pornography.
Right.
That's what it's for.
So I wouldn't, if I was looking to connect with somebody emotionally, I wouldn't visit that site with those hopes. Just saying.
So we hear a lot of horror stories, in the commonplace media about like pimps are mean and sex work is obviously bad. It's used a lot in media as like this way to, in drama, it gets used as a way to show that this person is in a bad way.
Okay. You're in a bad way because you're a sex worker?
You're doing sex work, yeah.
Okay.
Is the fact that it's for a camera and an audience better than it would be on a pole or in a bedroom?
All right. Well, it provides you 6 degrees of separation from your clientele. So that's something, but there's also an opportunity for people to become obsessed and try to find where you are, which I understand has been successfully done a lot of times, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are communities of people who will obsessively track folks down as well.
See, and so then it becomes mostly the same in that regard as far as like danger because of exposure to like large groups that are not regulated. If you're working inside of a club, you have security available. Does that mean that nobody ever tried to follow me home from the club? No, that doesn't mean that at all. That absolutely has happened. The scariest guy that I ever danced for in a club environment told me that I had better be careful or I was going to end up in his trunk. But he was so frail and old that I couldn't sit on him for a lap dance. So he couldn't bear my body weight. And so I was ultimately not afraid of him physically, but he was the like most frightening patron that I had in that environment. Now, I worked in an illegal brothel in Arizona where there were actual blood stains on the ceiling in one of the rooms. So it is dangerous work. And all it takes is one person to decide that they want to do something bad to you. And you have very little recourse as a person who has engaged with them willingly because they were financially remunerating you. So yeah, stranger danger. Like across the board, probably. It's probably not a whole lot safer, but I mean, I guess like you're in the comfort of your own home at least. It's hard.
We talked a little bit about how if your audience is underage, it's predatory.
It's very,
if
yeah.
you have an OnlyFans, it's pornography. If you're marketing an OnlyFans to an underage audience, are you at that point doing something that there is no moral justification for?
Yes. You don't stand outside of, I don't know, a shopping mall and offer kids that are passing by, getting out of high school, nude photographs of yourself for money without it being a predatory activity. And that's, you'd get in trouble for doing that even if you yourself were under the age of 18. So that gets really foggy, but once you're an adult, you're kind of supposed to legally know better. And it's just, that's a thing. Sex is bad for kids.
Is there a potentiality for knowing what you're doing? Like, they're aware that this is a marketing gimmick. They're aware that they're doing this to fleece their audience and to exploit themselves for tremendous financial gain.
Yes. Absolutely, you know what you're... when I was 12, I didn't know what I was doing, but at the age of 18... 25, 6, 7, 8... Yeah, I knew exactly what I was doing. You understand the rules of the game at that point. You understand what a hustle looks like. You understand what a good mark is, and how fast they're going to burn out, how long you can get them to hang on. Usually you can read, size up financial situations just based on somebody's clothing at that point. You absolutely have a good handle on how you're surviving in life and what's going to help propel you forward.
So with there being a shelf life on this before you want to stop doing it or start a family or whatever you want to transition into,
sure,
is there an element of this where they're just trying to get as much as they can from their audience before they inevitably just walk away?
I like to think that enough of your sex workers are operating along those lines and in that mindset, that they are capitalizing on the opportunity to support themselves throughout their younger years and save up a little for a future that they can transition into. Because otherwise, if you decide that the field is not for you, if you decide that it is, for whatever reason, not something that you want to continue to invest your time and resources into getting time and, resources back out of, your opportunities as like a lesser known sex worker in the United States are fairly limited, I think, especially if you don't have any sort of education in your background. I can't remember the gal's name that got fired from Taco Bell. Taco Bell. You fired a girl because she wanted to quit being in porn and come work at your Taco Bell. Why did you do that? This is pathetic.
Hey, to be fair to them, it might not have been a corporate mandate. It could have been a franchisee.
It's just stupid. That's so stupid and ugly. Like that, and it showcases how few opportunities there are for women who may just want to move on because it's not the best way to live, they've decided. So if you can't even go get a job at Taco Bell after that, then what are you going to do besides make more porn? You guys were stupid to take away your 7-layer burrito. Bitter.
Calling them out.
That's right.
I think that will probably lead us right to the best way to wrap this up.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about how if you're not a celebrity, you're working hard, but you're just getting by.
There's a lot of survival rather than thriving.
That a lot of this is very much on a timer for when you want to change, when you want to move on. There's a toll it takes on the body emotionally and spiritually, even if it's not physical for some of us.
Definitely physical. You have no idea how bad my knees are from stripping. I'm 40 years old and they creak when I walk upstairs because I danced for 4 or 5 years on platform heels. So it does damage to your joints, if nothing else. Take care of your knees, women.
Is there an after this if you spend, or what is it like when you want to leave and you're 35 now?
Oh, see, if you don't have college to fall back on, so I hope you've invested into your education. For me, I had college, and then having college kind of led me into a weird debt spiral place. So I actually I'm a stay-at-home mom / housewife, which I mean, the harshest critics of that lifestyle are just going to call that like an extension of being a hooker. So, but like that's not necessarily my thought on the subject, but these are all just my opinions anyway. It doesn't mean you have to adopt them as yours. But what is it like to move on? Again, I hope you have education, or if your whole goal and hope is to start a family. I hope that your family doesn't come to resent your past, because that can become a real dicey situation when you're trying to commit yourself to one man who may or may not have had an issue with the fact that you had some loose commitments in the world to, I don't know, a whole state or the internet or whatever.
You sold pictures of your body to 40,000 people and got circulated online to 4.10 million.
Right, and everybody was at home sexually gratifying themselves, and then now you can't go to Starbucks without somebody going, "Oh my gosh, your boobs are amazing." And so like, how long does your husband want to hear that? Are you going to be out with your children and have a son who grows up going, "Ugh, Mom"? So about that, moving on is always going to be tricky, but you're going to have to do it, because I've never seen a hooker past the age of 60, just saying. And I know humans tend normally to live a little longer than that. So moving on is a thing that has to happen, and it's always awkward. So,
is there anything that if this gets to the ears of a young person who's considering taking up streaming as a career and maybe opening their own OnlyFans and maybe making some of that tasty Amouranth money?
Lots of money there.
Do you have any words of advice, encouragement, or words of concern?
Warnings.
Anything. You've been around the block. You've come out of it on the other side.
Right.
You have most of your teeth. You seem fine.
I'm not dead. It's pretty sweet. It can be a really dangerous field. So I advise anybody who is considering this as an actual career path to know how to defend yourself, and know that you may well need to do that. Also be prepared for whatever fallout is going to happen as a result. Again, you might not be able to move forward so easily. Career opportunities may not open themselves as readily, or family situations and family connections can really be strained. So be prepared to sacrifice a lot if it's something that you really want to do, because you'll ultimately sacrifice quite a bit for any career path that you're going to choose. But there are career paths where you sacrifice a lot of, time and a lot of thought and a lot of physical labor maybe even. But are there jobs that will take down the other areas related to you, like your family, like your your physical health, and your emotional health? Like, these things can all be really affected by not having much in the world besides your sexuality to survive on, and to help you to use that to thrive on, because you're not you're using your body for your body is your commodity. And if there's nothing beyond that, if you're not making anything with your hands and not doing work that's creative and reflects your own potential in the world, like greater than that, it can be really damaging. So protect yourself, be careful for yourself, watch your mental health, try to take care of your family connections if you can, because those can be really damaged.
Well, hey, I really want to thank you for sitting down.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me.
Well, I've been trying to work through this idea and see where it fits. We grow. Modern society is a crazy place. Things are times they are changing. Yes. I know you said a little bit about a house. Do you want to plug your space?
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
Patreon, the thing people can do. If
our PayPal is connected to our website. You can visit us and learn a little bit more about human trafficking, about moving on from human trafficking, about healing, about what our plan is to bring other people forward in through our safe housing project, and also offer them opportunities beyond that, because living beyond that is something that I've accidentally become an expert of over the last 10 years. So I'd like to share that with other people. So please visit us at leahsplace.space. That's all one word, LEAHSPLACE.space. Hope to see you there. And if you can, please give to PayPal. It helps us with our legal fees at this point so we can incorporate as a 501c3 not-for-profit organization alongside Office of Children and Family Services in New York State to allow us to be the only working safe house in our region that allows children on the premises, because sex makes babies. So, thanks everybody.
Thank you.